So it's Veterans Day, and I am, of course, thinking about my favorite veteran, and that was my daddy. I do have a lot of veterans in my family. My brother David was a veteran, and his son David. My sister Emily. I have a couple of sisters whose sons were in the military, and one nephew who is already a grandfather, and his daughter served. So that's Cy and his daughter Alexis, his brother Steve, my nephew Kevin, and just a ton of other nieces and nephews elsewhere. And I just want to tell you guys how proud I am. I don't think anybody in this nation, I don't care who you voted for, what your politics are, we all love our troops, and we want to honor them and thank them for their service. I am very patriotic. I love this country so much, and I am wearing our flag colors, at least two of them anyway. So because it's Veterans Day, I'm thinking of my favorite veteran, and that would be my sweet little daddy. At the end of his life, he had lung cancer, and he had been treated with chemotherapy and radiation, and his little throat was such a mess, and there were not very many things that sounded good to him. But this is something that he could always tolerate. It felt smooth and cooling on his throat, and it had enough sweetness to it that it gave him a little bit of energy. And he requested this from me many times, and it was my great privilege to be able to make it for him. And I am so thankful that his little mom taught me how to make it. She had come to visit us. I was probably maybe 13 or 14 years old. We lived in a trailer. We were very poor, and she had come to Texas from Illinois with my dad's two sisters. And my dad really wanted someone to learn how to make this, and I raised my hand and volunteered because not only did I love to cook, I love to do anything to please my sweet daddy. So this is a recipe that my grandma Titus taught me how to make. She lived on a farm in Illinois, and she probably didn't weigh 80 pounds soaking wet, but she fed 7 children just from the farm that they lived on. They always had milk. And so this was a recipe that they would use probably when they didn't have much else. There is no written recipe for this. She just showed me a method for making this cream pie. So I am going to share that with you today. I hope you'll enjoy the process. And you're going to need 1 unbaked pie shell. If you guys want to see how I make my pie crust, there is another post that will tell you how I did that. I didn't want to do that, both of those in one video because it gets long and rambly. So what my little grandma Clara taught me to do was to take about 1/4 of a cup of flour and put it in the bottom of the bowl. Then you're gonna add about a cup of sugar. This is 1/4, so I'll do 4. 1, 2, 3, and 4. I think this recipe came from Depression or pre-Depression times when they didn't have a lot of resources. And so they used what was on hand. I have even read about a water pie, which it's almost identical to this, but it was just water, sugar, flour. Might have had an egg in it, I can't remember. I've never made that one. You're gonna add a little bit of salt, probably just maybe shy of a teaspoon of salt, which of course I use in the palm of my hand. All right. My grandma did not even use a spoon. She just used her fingers. I think there's a pie similar to this in the Pennsylvania Dutch culture, and I think it's called milk pie, but my dad called this cream pie. I think that's what they called it because they did have cows, so they probably had fresh cream. So what you do, you have your flour, salt, and sugar together in a bowl like this. just this nice homogeneous mixture. So you're gonna start by sprinkling a good, I don't know, a couple of tablespoons on the bottom just to cover your pie shell completely. And then here's the fun part. You just take heavy cream, pour it over the top. Now, this is just kind of layered. Just do a coating of that. I would guess you would probably, that's maybe a cup. Then you're gonna sprinkle that with ground cinnamon, just plain cinnamon, okay? And then you're gonna put another, very carefully, another layer of the flour and the sugar over the top. Okay. We're going to do another layer of heavy cream. This is how the lady taught me, and this is how we do it. You layer it again with a little more cinnamon, as much as you want. And then you're gonna put another layer of your flour and sugar. Just kind of finish up using the last of that flour and sugar. Anything with cinnamon and sugar is wonderful, right? Okay, finish that up. And I'm actually going to use a little half and half because I didn't have enough heavy cream. But I know if milk works, this will certainly work. If water works, this will work. Okay? So I just want to fill that to the point where it comes up to the top of my crust line. Okay? Oh, y'all. How can you go wrong? Heavy cream, sugar, flour, cinnamon. Okay, coat the top with cinnamon. Now I know this may look a little strange, but this is what my grandma used to do. They would just pinch a little bit around in the surface, just gently down, almost not even touching the bottom of the pie crust, just in order to make sure that the flour and the sugar were mixed well so that you didn't have any clumps. And you wouldn't want to do this with a spoon or a fork because then it would tear your pie crust and you'd have holes in your pie crust where the liquid filling would leak through onto the bottom. And it would make a mess and you wouldn't be able to get your pie crust out of your pie plate. Okay, 5 little teeny tiny slivers of butter just on the top. Space them around, 4 all around the edges and 1 in the middle. Okay. Beautiful. That looks so pretty. Now what you're going to want to do is carefully transfer it to a Silpat lined baking sheet. And we want this to go in a preheated 400-degree oven for 15 minutes. Then we're going to turn the temperature down to 350 and bake it for another 40 or 45 minutes. So all told, this is going to bake for about an hour. He served in World War II. And he drove a supply truck, and many a time he drove that truck by moonlight. He had a crew of men, and they would drive in the dark of night on little bitty paths, and they couldn't have any light because the Germans would see them and would bomb them. They were taking supplies to the front lines. So I wish I knew more about the stories from when he served, but unfortunately he didn't talk about it very much, and I didn't think to ask him. But in memory of him, I wanted to make this recipe. Okay, and I just took it out of the oven, and I want to show you. You will still get a little jiggle to it, and that's just fine. You want to go ahead and remove it when it's about like that, because it's going to set up more as it cools off. But doesn't that just look wonderful? Can't wait to cut into it. So let me get this little bad boy out of here. Okay, guys. Look at that, would you? That is a cream pie. This is what it looks like. Wonderful. It's kind of like a custard in a way. So you can see this is kind of a wet pie. The flour does thicken it to make a custard, but there are still these little pockets of sweetened cream that ooze out. Oh my goodness. Everything caramelizes in it. It's really delicious. Wonderful comfort food. In closing, I just want to say thank you to everybody who has served and who is a veteran. Thank you to everybody who is still serving. And I just pray that God will bless you, each and every one, all of your families, and that He will bless our United States of America. We sure do need it. Take care, all. Know that you are deeply loved with an everlasting love. Have a great week.